Hi there. Today I'd like to talk to you about the process through which I am undergoing currently and the journey of getting my VA disability rating. And for those that don't understand, a VA disability rating is a percentage rating of disability based on various injuries, mental and physical, that you've suffered while in the service of the military. Preferably directly service connected, as the VA tends to not give you a rating for things that aren't service connected. And by service connected, I mean if you worked around loud jet engines as an aviation mechanic such as myself, there's a strong chance you have hearing loss. If you had to jump out of airplanes or rappel out of helicopters, such as other veterans I've worked with, you might have knee replacement or bad hips, bad back. If you dealt with any kind of mental health stress, you could have post-traumatic stress, adjustment disorder, anxiety, depression brought on by what you dealt with. And part of our military service was or part of the contract was that the government would take care of us after we got back, physically, mentally, etc. So I joined in 2000, I got out in 2006, my contract ended in 2008, that's a little confusing, and I was finally separated in 2009 because of stop loss. Honorable discharge, all that good jazz. What some people are going to ask, and it's the elephant in the room, is why did I wait almost 20 years to start my VA disability rating? There's two very specific reasons. One was word of mouth from Vietnam veterans and Gulf War veterans who effectively told me that dealing with the VA and dealing with the Veterans Administration, specifically for the rating system, the rating process, wasn't worth it. It was going to be a huge pain in my butt. It was going to be, it was a bunch of runarounds, and it didn't end up getting you anything worth anything. That was basically the impression I got from these guys. And this is going back into the late 80s when I first started encountering Vietnam veterans in my church. The second reason was something that every veteran I've dealt with, to a certain extent, almost every veteran, has dealt with, especially in the mental health side, where they look at themselves and they go, I'm not as hurt as that person. And when I got back from Iraq, yeah, I had issues, physical and mental. But I said to myself, I'm not an amputee. I didn't lose an arm, a leg. I wasn't burned over most of my body. I don't have a Purple Heart from getting shot or shrapnel or getting blown up. So I'm going to let the people that need the disability services get them. And I mean, it's admirable, but that didn't change the fact that I still had hearing loss, post-traumatic stress issues, sleep issues, all forms of issues in my sinuses and nasal areas. All kinds of other things going on with my body that, at that point in time, yeah, it was uncomfortable, it hurt, it impeded my ability to function. But I'm just like, I'm not as bad off as these other people. I'll soldier through it, through the pain, through the inability. That didn't change the fact that I did start seeing a chiropractor. I did start going to mental health counseling. I did start looking for ways to mitigate the pain on my own. But 20 years later, here I am. Now, but why? Why did that was why I waited 20 years. Well, why? What convinced me to change my mind? What changed my mind? And what changed my mind was working with other veterans. A great many of the Global War on Terror veterans, and yeah, you served, you owe yourself the opportunity to see what, if any, rating you can get. And so I sat back and I said, all right, let's go ahead and do this. Let's try to see let's see. Worst case scenario, I'm told I'm not injured. I'm not injured enough, or my injuries and my various health issues are not directly related to or service connected in some way. Thankfully, some of my injuries and my issues are documented in my military documents. And so that's part of what I want to talk about in this series. This isn't just one video. I plan to do a series of these going over my journey in this. And no, I'm not going to be taking videos from the VA or things like that. It's just me explaining what I went through. And the process is rather interesting. I mean, the very first part of the process is filing. Filing is relatively easy currently, at least in 2024-25. At the time of making this video, you go online to the Veterans Administration website, you log in. From there, after you log in, you go to file a claim. You can type in the search engine and you start the process, and it's going to go through every single thing you can claim. It can take a while. It took me about 2 or 3 weeks of just coming back into it and exiting, coming back into it and exiting, and I wasn't getting any kind of support or people telling me what I should be putting down. I was just like, do I have this? Do I have that? And I got that finished. Now the fun part is when you submit the claim, so after the 2 or 3 weeks of putting it, you actually submit it, they'll start, that's what they consider the date. This is the date in which you submitted the paperwork, and that gets locked into a timestamp. The reason for this is should your injuries be service-connected and warrant a rating, they will back pay you based on your rating to that date. So the sooner you get it in, the better. Now, like I said, it was talking to other veterans that got me to decide to try. And had I decided not to try, I wouldn't have done it. I would have just continued living off my life unconcerned with the fact that there were benefits that I'd earned, potentially, that I was not taking advantage of. So if you're somebody who's young, getting out of the military, and you're like, oh yeah, no, I'm fine, I don't need anything, seriously, take this from an old guy that's learned the hard way. Document everything and get that taken care of as quick as you can. Because you may not feel it the day you exit the military. You may not feel it the day you exit the military, but you're going to feel it. Whether mentally, physically, emotionally, it will hit you. And when it hits you, you need to spend time and energy to make sure that the VA and the government can go, yeah, this is service connected. Now there is one caveat, and it's one of the areas that boils my blood a little bit, is that a lot of our special forces soldiers, our operators, our rangers, our SEALs, our tier 2 and tier 1 and tier 2 special forces, the kind of people that you can't see on their DD-214 what they did because it was all redacted and top secret. These guys have a hell of a time getting their VA rating for half of the stuff they dealt with. Because the VA is very, very, very specific on if it's not documented, it didn't happen. When dealing with special forces personnel, there's a lot of stuff that didn't happen. I was working with an 83-year-old Vietnam vet who was trying to get benefits to the VA, and his MOS at that point in 1971 was what was called an 11 Echo. I didn't know what an 11 Echo was. I looked it up. I looked at what was an 11 Echo in 1971 for the U.S. Army. And this was atomic engineering and disposal. This guy was effectively special forces. And the stuff he did in Vietnam, in Cambodia, in Laos was never documented on any of his paperwork. But he dealt in atomic demolitions and disposal. He dealt with broken arrows. He dealt with top secret stuff all over the world. The VA didn't want to give him any benefits for the service he rendered because it wasn't documented. So that is one of my pet peeves when it comes to the special forces, is that while they are the best trained and they get the best stuff done in the world, they get the shaft hard by the way the Veterans Administration operates the benefit system for them. And part of it is the way the government runs it. They don't put down where these guys were. So it's kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't. They become high-end operators. They go out and do stuff, and I appreciate everything they've done. And the VA is like, well, we can't say that your injury service connected because we can't show that you were ever there. So welcome to the drawback of becoming a Special Forces soldier. Hopefully, this will get corrected over time. and that these individuals will receive the compensation for the service, for the wear and tear that they put their body through for the service to this country. But until then, that's one. Like I said, that's one of my pet peeves. I've known guys who were at the Pentagon on 9/11, sought mental health care, were told, no, don't get it. And then when they got out, tried to get mental health, tried to get PTSD rating, and were told you don't qualify because it's not service connected. Because you obviously were perfectly fine those 10 years you were in service. And you never sought mental health, and it's like, I was ordered not to. Doesn't matter. Even though you sought mental health and were told by your chain of command not to, you obviously were still functional, so we're not giving you a rating. But no, this isn't talking about myself. This is reminiscing about a client, or is it a client? So that's the beauty of that. Anyways, I will put together a few more of these videos documenting my journey through the mental health side and the physical side of getting a VA rating. Hopefully you'll find it informative. Hopefully you'll find it intuitive. Hopefully it will help you in some way on your journey. And if you like what I do, hit like, hit subscribe, feed the algorithm, help me, help you, help them. Because at the end of the day, we were all government property. I just chose to take the name. Take care. Thank you much. Government property. Out.